So, what makes me cranky about Ant-Man and the Wasp? It's not Avengers 4. I mean, after what happened in Infinity War, that's what we're all really waiting for, isn't it? Sure, Ant-Man's first movie was fun, and his cameo in Civil War was great, but does anybody really care what random crap Scott Lang was up to while the rest of the Avengers were fighting for the fate of the universe? I know I didn't. I mean, I can't say I was super stoked for another solo Ant-Man movie in the first place, but having it stand in the shadow of Infinity War really puts a damper on any enthusiasm I might have otherwise mustered for it. I guess if you're really into Paul Rudd, you might be excited to see him play Ant-Man again or something. But hey, my lack of general enthusiasm for Paul Rudd and his character's antics aside, it's Marvel. And as I've said on numerous occasions, even Marvel's worst outings are usually good entertainment for a couple of hours. It's why they continue to make all the money. And true to form, Ant-Man and the Wasp is no different. Like the first Ant-Man, this one centers on a smaller caper that doesn't involve saving a major city or half the known life in the universe, which is always a refreshing change of pace from the usual superhero fare. Instead of dealing with such cataclysmic cosmic issues, Scott Lang and friends are engaged in essentially one giant game of keep away while they try to figure out how to rescue Hank Pym's wife, aka the original Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, from the quantum realm. She is now played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and as the opening helpfully recaps, Janet shrunk down smaller than molecules in order to stop a missile, which is usually a one-way trip. Marvel's de-aging technology continues to kick ass here as both Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer get 30 years taken off of the retelling. It's really impressive how far we've come from the creepy Uncanny Valley version of Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy to watching two actors walk around looking like they did in their prime. Anyway, since Ant-Man found a way back from the quantum realm in his movie, they figured they can get Janet back too, even though you'd assume she'd have no way to breathe or eat when shrunken down to the size of the building blocks of the universe, and thus would have, suffocated or starved to death decades ago. Who knows, maybe her suit was made of vibranium, since we know from Black Panther that stuff can do anything. In any case, the smaller scale is a nice palate cleanser from the bigger Marvel movies, just as it was the first time. Ant-Man and the Wasp is unfortunately not as tightly focused as the original Ant-Man was, though, since it opts for that usual "here's more of what you like" thing that befalls so many sequels. It even has a whole second set of villains who really only exist to set up a couple of jokes from Michael Pena and the rest of the supporting cast. They're good jokes, but it's a lot of wasted screen time that detracts from the rest of the movie. It's also another criminal underutilization of Walton Goggins. Man, that guy just can't catch a break. Hannah John Kamen's character Ghost fares a lot better, but she's still seriously undercut by all of the other things the movie is trying to do. She's certainly a much more interesting antagonist than Yellow Jacket was in the first movie, but there's so little time left over after the action sequences and the horsing around with the supporting cast that the movie basically just has to cram everything about her into giant exposition dumps. It really ruins the mysterious nature of the character and ultimately makes her way more one-note than she really should be. The one expansion from the original Ant-Man that did work out pretty well, though, is Evangeline Lilly's character Hope getting to join the action as the new Wasp. I was pretty nervous about that because the trailers lean pretty heavily into Hope being better at everything than Scott, which she is, of course, but unlike with a lot of the feminism characters of late, he isn't used as a stepping stone to make her look good by comparison, so this is much more of a genuine team-up movie than the trailers seem to indicate. And that was a pleasant surprise. Rudd, Lilly, and Douglas continue to play well off each other, so it's fun to see their characters all working together, and it makes for good action and solid humor. Said action once again features a bunch of neat shrinking and enlarging stuff, though I didn't find it quite as clever as the first movie. It's really hard to top that bit with a toy train after all, and it really doesn't help that they spoil a lot of the best bits in the trailers. Fortunately, it's still a pretty funny movie, and Michael Pena's character continues to deliver the best gags. If not for that, I'd argue he and the other criminals should be cut from this thing entirely because, like I said, this movie is being pulled in way too many directions at once. Other than that, though, it's pretty much standard mid-level Marvel. Competent, entertaining, and generally worth a trip to the theater to see on the big screen. Whether you want to go for full price or save a couple bucks on a matinee, that's pretty much up to you. As always with Marvel movies, you do have stingers after the credits start rolling, though the only one that's really worth it is the mid-credits one, which is actually an extremely important tie-in to the larger MCU. The one at the end of the credits is just dumb, and I didn't think it was worth waiting for at all. So that's what I thought about Ant-Man and the Wasp anyway. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. There's that like button if you enjoyed the video, and if you want to help expand my YouTube presence to epic proportions, subscribe to the channel for more reviews.